Do we think the truth is no longer clear to see? Yeah. And the simple things are left behind. Like smiling at your fellow man, or looking up at the velvet sky. And sometimes it makes me wonder why we're all still here. Do we feel a deeper meaning to it all? And in our creation, there are no flaws, and we're trying to control something we can't explain, or we wander around blindly in the dark without an aim.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Reverts Show with Hannah, where we talk about the 5 pillars of Islam from the Reverts perspective. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the Reverts Show, the first one this Ramadan, alhamdulillah. My name is Hannah and I'll be your host this year, inshallah. And I'll just ask you at the beginning to please bear with me because it's the first time, alhamdulillah, I am doing a show ever. And alhamdulillah, we had great training provided, but there's always that extra factor where you're live on the day that you can't all necessarily predict everything. So alhamdulillah, very glad that all of you can join us today live or listening to the stream later on. So just to introduce myself, I'm Hannah. I've been a revert for 9 years, and the theme for this year's show, inshallah, is reflecting on the 5 pillars from the revert's perspectives. And just before we start, I wanted to share a few words, why this theme, how did it come about? And actually, it's been inspired by the Reverts Show last year, which was run by the fantastic Sarah Rumi. And I remember I was actually a guest, alhamdulillah, on one of the episodes last year. And Sarah asked me a question to reflect on the time I took my Shahada. And of course, Shahada is the first pillar of Islam. And it already kind of, started, make the creative juices flow. And the next kind of inspiration came from the Hajj show, which we had last year as well, run by Faisal and Kunza. A really fantastic show. And whenever I listened to it, I was thinking, I wonder how it is to do all of that, but as a revert. So this is kind of the background, the inspiration behind this year's show. And, I hope that both the listeners who are reverts and those who are born Muslims, or maybe even there are some listeners who have not yet accepted Islam, I hope that all of us benefit from the reflections that we're going to have today and over the next few weeks, inshallah. And of course, since today is our first episode, it feels suitable to talk about another very important pillar of Islam, which is fasting in Ramadan. And this is what we're going to talk about today, inshallah. And I'm very happy to say that we have very special guests lined up to reflect with us. And firstly, I would like to introduce Thuraya, Sister Thuraya. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Wa alaikum salam.
Alhamdulillah, I can hear you loud and clear, which is fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm quite fine, thank you. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And would you mind sharing a few words about yourself with the listeners?
Yeah, sure. My name is Turaya. I am a primary school teacher. I am British American Dutch. I reverted to Islam in 2013 on the last Friday during Ramadan in the mosque. It was an amazing experience, and I've been a Muslim for 7 years, but I've been fasting for 10 years.
Oh, mashallah, that sounds interesting. We'll definitely get into that discussion very soon. And where are you listening from today? Where are you joining us from today?
In my room in Ealing.
Ealing, fantastic, mashallah. So you can see RFM is definitely national, if not global. I'm sure we have some listeners from all over the world joining us, alhamdulillah. So thank you, Thuraya, so much for agreeing to speak with us today. Before we move on to the questions, we may have another guest joining us, depending on the technical capacities that we have. So we may have a brother joining us later on in the show. But in the meantime, I'd just like to remind our listeners how you can get in touch with us, because of course this is your show as much as it is ours, and we would like you to get in touch with us, inshallah. So there are a few ways you can do it, and if you are watching us on Facebook Live or YouTube Live, you will see a thumbnail of the radio show, and you'll get the phone number over there. So firstly, you can WhatsApp us at 07591 970 241. So that's 07591 970 241. And if you need a little bit of an encouragement, let's have a topic for our WhatsApp today. So the topic for our WhatsApp messages, inshallah, will be the following: either or both. What is your most favorite part about fasting in Ramadan? Or what is the thing you find the most challenging while fasting during Ramadan? And of course, we welcome messages from everyone, reverts, born Muslims, everyone who wants to get in touch. You can also comment on Facebook Live and YouTube Live if you wish. And we really look forward to getting in touch and getting the show going. So alhamdulillah, without further ado, let's get started, Thuraya. So the first thing I was wondering about you is, you said that you actually have been fasting before you became Muslim. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So
that's really correct, yes.
So how was it? What made you fast at that time, and how did you experience it? Do you have any particular memories of it at that time?
I remember it very clearly. My first Ramadan was actually a blessing in disguise, I would say, because it started out as a challenge for myself to see if I could have kept up with the Muslims who were my schoolmates. I wasn't a Muslim at that time. So it happened back in college when the school with the Islamic organization wanted to bring awareness to Islam and the other students at school. But when I tried to do it, I thought I would never, ever be able to do this because, I need fluids in the day. I have to drink. And it's just the idea of not, you know how it is. Like when you can't have something, that's when you want it. So I was not sure if I would even manage. And then I thought, you know what? No one can see me if I go to the restroom. I can take a sneak of water because, it's not, I don't know. No one will know. And then I remember thinking, but God will know. So actually I'm cheating. And I remember saying, no, I won't do that. I'll try. And I've been doing it ever since because it gave me such an awareness to Islam that I saw it in a different perspective. And that was such a blessing. It was really a blessing in disguise, as I said.
MashaAllah, that's really amazing. And you know what, you triggered my memories, because I now remember that I think in the summer before, so I became Muslim in January 2012, alhamdulillah, so not much earlier than you. And I remember the summer before, I also tried fasting. I didn't fast the whole Ramadan, but I fasted, I think, one day. And I was really embarrassed about, when you fast, sometimes you have that smell coming out of your mouth, mashallah. And at that time, I didn't know what you're supposed to do or not. I just thought, okay, no food and no drink. But I actually had some chewing gum, and I was like, that's not so difficult. Little did I know, what actually are the rules in which you can. Of course, you can't chew chewing gum when you're fasting, but it was it wasn't really a full experience. But there is something about the fact that even before you revert, you have that eagerness to try, and even if you're not doing 100% correctly, you still feel that connection.
I completely agree with you, but the thing was, it was more like me trying to understand how it was possible for someone to stay without food and drinking. It was like unheard of, because the religion that I had as a child, Catholic, they had fasting as well, but they sometimes drank water or they stayed away from certain foods, nothing luxurious, but it was nothing like this. So it was like complete amazement for me. And I thought I would try, but I never expected to get back this.
So when you started fasting, was it in the summer? Sorry, I'm sorry if I missed that. Was it like long hot days?
It was actually during I think it was spring. So it wasn't really in the summer. It was just like now, actually. It was somewhere like now. And it was just the fact that it was an iftar. So it wasn't something that I was looking into or that I wanted to experience that because I've heard about it. It was the school was organizing something, and Muslim or no Muslim, you were allowed to take part to understand what it meant. So you could have taken part in that iftar. So the whole school canteen and everything was turned into an iftar, and it was amazing. So it was it was quite an experience, actually.
MashaAllah, that's so incredible. I can't believe it that they do it. It's a really great way of giving dawah and, not even that, but just to have that community spirit, isn't it? To connect the interfaith community
Absolutely.
together.
I do believe in that, because as a Muslim, you show others you're doing dawah without even knowing it. And look how they did it. They did it so simple. If you would like to try, you come. If you don't, you don't. But this is us. And out of that, it inspired me. And then the awareness and the serenity that I felt, because the first day when I did it, it was for the iftar. And I was like, you can't go and have iftar if you've been eating the whole day and everyone fasted. So, it got me into the thinking. And it was really like the second day I thought, you know what, I'm really going to give it a go. I'm really going to fast. And that's when the serenity came. That's when the awareness came. And you start to look at things differently, actually. So it was amazing, actually.
So incredible, mashallah. So let me ask you this same question, but fast forwarding to your first Ramadan as a Muslim. How was it for you then?
It was, I felt as a Muslim, as a revert at that time, a bit alone, because whereas the school did it and everyone was around you, as a revert, I was alone, and I had no one around me. And because at that time, it was 3 years later, so I was no longer in that school. And it was like everyone was talking about Ramadan, but when everyone went to their family, I was alone and I had to break it alone. And it was different. I think it made me aware of the fact that it's not always about having lots of people around you, but more in being in contact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what I got out of it eventually, because I had to do it so many times alone. And then I thought, well, you know what? I will change certain things. So let's say that if I would see someone else in that position, a revert, I would be like the first one saying, do you have somewhere to go for iftar? Or, do you want to would you like to come and eat together? Or, something. but not just thinking, okay, we did it, you converted and that's it. If you understand what I mean, I don't know if how your experience was, but that's what was mine in the first image, that I felt alone actually at that point.
I completely agree, and I think that probably now, this Ramadan, the previous Ramadan under lockdown, I'm sure that even more Revert brothers and sisters have experienced that. And it's difficult these days, but
Yes.
it doesn't mean that you can drop them a cheeky WhatsApp message, or give them a call, schedule a Zoom chat. It's important to reach out. And I, again, you triggered my memories here. And when I think about my first Ramadan as a Muslim, I think one thing that stands out to me is the community, because Alhamdulillah, I was blessed to revert in a very big mosque, in East London Mosque, and I used to be around a community of sisters. It was a mix of both born Muslims and reverts, and I remember, not every single day, but I remember, we used to go to this restaurant, that restaurant, this house, that house. And it was so memorable, mashallah, and it definitely made it easier. So it's something that I'm sure, definitely a lot of us struggle with. Even we may not be new Muslims, but we may not yet have our families, or we may be, living alone, working. We don't have that background. It's not the same type of affair, at least until you have your own family. It is very individual.
I think sometimes that's like overlooked. It's like so like a born Muslim, it's like something that speaks for itself. Your parents are home, you're a Muslim, so everyone you go to would understand it and would be doing it. And then they see you as a Muslim, and you are a Muslim. But sometimes I think they forget your background, and they think, oh, when she goes home, someone will be there to break the fast with her. So alhamdulillah, I don't blame them. I just hope for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make them more aware of that. And how it went for me, it made me more aware, and I would say even better Muslim, to just try and be considerate for other reverts, but also to other Muslims, to just don't look at things black and white, but there are always gray areas as well.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much for sharing it. We're going to pause now for an ad break, and we're going to return in around 3-4 minutes, inshallah. In the meantime, remember, please get in touch. You can WhatsApp us. You can actually call us via WhatsApp by the same number as well. You can comment, what is your most favorite thing about Ramadan, and what is your most challenging part of Ramadan? So inshallah, see you after the ad break.
To all of our wonderful listeners of RFM, thank you so much for your support. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless each and every one of you during this blessed month of Ramadan. Stay locked for more amazing shows. Amazing shows.
Ramadan Mubarak from Adam Accounting Services.
Ramadan Mubarak. Need help with your accounts and tax work?
Contact us today on 01908 692 380 and see how we can help.
Adam Accounting Services, friendly local accountants. Call us today on 01908 692 380.
German Doner Kebab wishes you Ramadan Kareem. Enjoy your doner after dusk with us and choose from the original Doner Kebab, the K-Cal, the Doner Crunch Burger, or perhaps the Boss Box and so much more. You can find your nearest GDK at GermanDonerKebab.com or bring the Ramadan experience to your doorstep by signing up for your Ramadan pack at RamadanTentProject.com. German Doner Kebab. Kebabs done right.
Come and visit us at Al Ansar and find fantastic deals on food and drink. At Al Ansar, we specialize in Asian groceries and HMC halal meat. We stock products from all over the world and have everything you need this Ramadan. From big packs of rice, flour and oil to dates, treats and snacks. You can find us at 153 Queens Way in Bletchley or call us on 01908 411 334.
waffles, crepes, cookie dough, ice cream, just what you need after a long day of fasting. Dessert Island is open until 1 a.m. during Ramadan, 7 days a week, and there is free parking at the rear. Come and see us at 116 to 118 Queensway, Bletchley. We can even deliver. Just visit dessert-island.co.uk or download the app.
The vibrant city of Lahore comes to Milton Keynes. Let's talk about the Lahori vibes, Corona lockdown and Ramadan in Lahore with Atif and Sadia.
Please join our live show every Thursday 7 to 8 p.m. on Ramadan FM Milton Keynes. You can also join our live stream on Facebook and YouTube.
اخترت يوما وأنت تقرأ القرآن، لماذا اختار الله عز وجل حرف السين في سورة الناس وحرف الغين في قوله تعالى متحدثا عن هلاك فرعون وأغرقنا آل فرعون؟ وما الحكمة من قراءة المعوذتين مرتين باليوم؟ كونوا معي لنتعرف على جمال وبلاغة القرآن وسر لغة الضاد. ذلك سيبث كل يوم أربعاء من الساعة 1:30 وحتى 2 ظهرا. ابقوا معي، أنا آمال وهالة.
For a list of all our sponsors, please visit ramadanfm.com.
Ramadan, 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 87.9 FM.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Reverts Show with Hannah, where we talk about the 5 pillars of Islam from the Reverts perspective.
The blue sky is blue like blue bubble gum.
Assalamu alaikum. I hope that we are back after the outbreak. Yes, it was a little technical glitch, but alhamdulillah, we're back. So we are here today for the Reverts Show, talking about the 5 pillars of Islam, specifically about fasting in Ramadan. And we have with us a very special guest, Thuraya, who's joining us from Ealing, mashallah. And we actually had a WhatsApp message in the meantime from Kunza, mashallah. Thank you for messaging us. And Kunza saying, Assalamu alaikum, great show. The thing I look most forward to is all the dates, and I miss sleeping the most. Mashallah, I can definitely relate to that. So, Thuraya, we've talked about our experiences of Ramadan at the very beginning of our journey, and mashallah, you said that you actually started fasting even before you became Muslim. And one thing you said is very interesting that maybe I'd just like to follow up upon, inshallah. So you mentioned that one thing you found particularly challenging is being by yourself at that time. So I'm wondering, so now that you've been Muslim for a number of years, how is Ramadan for you now? Did you manage to tackle those challenges? Did any new challenges pop up? Any new thoughts or reflections that you have on Ramadan as a Muslim of 7 or 8 years now? Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I think the challenge of always wanting to have sisters or family around you is something that links a bit to my childhood. It's like, as I was born Catholic, and I was always so excited about Christmas, and I looked forward to it. And it was the family and thinking about what it meant, and not just the gifts, but just the being together and talking about it. And Ramadan now, it makes me always so excited. So I tend to think about the other things, what I can do in Ramadan. I tend to think about the deen side, how I can grow as a Muslim, and I'm prepared. So I'm prepared to do that. So this Ramadan, I was prepared with deen things. So I had my Ramadan calendar, and my dua book was made, and all the things that I could do to grow as a Muslim. And when it came to food, it was the least on my mind. So I think I've changed it since then. And I guess I just think about, it's nice to be with friends, and it's very special to have those moments. But I've learned Ramadan it's more about growing in your taqwa and in your deen than just about the food. It's the least about the food, actually, but we tend to make it more about the food. So yeah, I look for those things as a positive, I guess.
Alhamdulillah, that's so thought-provoking because on the one hand, of course, the atmosphere, the community, and something that we've been deprived of, right, in the past 2 years, the 2 Ramadans. It's something, of course, very integral, but I think the one thing, as reverts, we have that perhaps more, personal, individual relationship with Ramadan because it's something we tend to do, by ourselves very often. But you know what? I think that maybe last year especially, maybe a lot of people actually felt that connection as well, because of course last year we couldn't go meet family, we couldn't go to the mosque to have iftar together. We had to pray at home. So I'm sure this was quite a shock for many born Muslims, but it perhaps may brought us a bit closer in terms of the experiences of the born Muslim and the reverts. So alhamdulillah, that's so interesting.
Actually, I do agree with you because I've heard now people saying that we couldn't go by family and I had to be alone, and I was basically given ideas how to do it differently and what to think about. And I did have the period. I'm not going to say I didn't think about how will I not be able to see sisters or break iftar with sisters, because that's a special thing to do during Ramadan. But it was really nice getting to give others tips because they've never experienced it that way. So that was really nice that they, I guess, we were on the same level at that time, or that if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Alhamdulillah, definitely. Yes, definitely. Who knows how things are going to evolve? We don't know. May Allah make it easy for all of us. But inshallah, even when inshallah we go back to the quote unquote normal in the future years, I hope that still we will all have retained that element of that personal relationship with Ramadan, that personal, individual, quiet worship that I'm sure I've actually heard, I don't know who said it, was someone on the radio actually, a born Muslim, mashallah, who said that last year was the best Ramadan of their lives.
Yeah.
Because of that
same
personal
exact thing. Yes, that's true. It is.
Alhamdulillah. So now let me ask you a little bit different question. So it's still about Ramadan, still about fasting. But I was actually wondering, how do you think your experience of Ramadan right now, or before, whatever you would like to refer to, how do you think your experience of Ramadan differs from how you experience the other pillars of Islam? So what I mean specifically is that, is there anything that you find perhaps particularly easy or difficult or unique about it when it comes to comparing it, for example, with salah or giving charity or even any other aspects of Islam?
Absolutely. Ramadan is very special to me because it led me to Islam. It leads me to growth and steadfastness in the following the Quran and the Sunnah ways. It makes me feel grateful to Allah for allowing me to see the truth and becoming a Muslim, alhamdulillah. Ramadan is just an amazing moment that you're not supposed to be selfish, and everything that you're doing is not for you. I mean, when we fast, that's the one thing that we do for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's such an amazing feeling that you are doing something for your maker. So I see it in a spiritual way, because when I became a Muslim, it was through Ramadan. So it holds a very special, part in my heart, I guess.
MashaAllah, that's so inspiring. And the reason why I asked this question is because when I think some parts of worship in Islam, I'm sure come very easy to some people, but it may be an unsurmountable challenge for others. While vice versa, some other activity, like for example, in case of sisters, like wearing the hijab, for example, for me, this is something really difficult. I still struggle with. while other things like fasting, alhamdulillah, I can do it. It's not always easy, but I never have doubts or about it. And so there is I think each one of us has their own journey, their
Journey to
own
make.
challenges.
Absolutely. Yes. I think Ramadan has, I don't know if it's because I did not sneak and drink that water in the restroom, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me, Allahumma barik, that I was able to have never once had a challenge with fasting. Alhamdulillah. It goes really very easy for me. Whereas I think with hijab and those things, I did not have that difficulty as well. It was like one day I just, so whereas I did it in August, I had my shahada. In December, I was completely closed with khimar, or I started out with hijab and an abaya, and then I went to khimar. So that was, those two aspects of the 5 pillars were easier for me. Whereas when it was time to pray, I do pray 5 times a day, alhamdulillah. But really understanding sometimes what you're saying, that's maybe more of my challenge, and something that I tend to want to grow in more each time. So that would be my challenge, not the praying, but understanding what you're saying and staying focused in prayer. Because you have the moments that one moment you're completely focused, and then the other minute it's like you're feeling almost like you're doing like robotic, just praying because you have to pray. And that sometimes can be very difficult.
Yeah, I completely understand. And there's something interesting you touched upon here, which is that, outward versus the inward. Of course, Ramadan is something ultimately very inward of an experience. And I am sure that, the same way that you were tempted, many, many years ago to, have some water and when no one sees you, but you still withheld yourself because, actually, yes, no one around me will see me, but Allah, God will see me.
Yes.
And this is a type of awareness, I think, actually, I don't want to judge anyone. It's not in my intent at all. But sometimes maybe even born Muslims, they are born into the faith, and perhaps they have the same struggles as we do. And this is something that
absolutely
I discovered recently as well.
They sometimes I think in the beginning when I became a Muslim, I thought it's easy for them because they had it like laid out on a silver platter. But actually, when I'm thinking about it, and when I got to talking to other sisters, I realized it was my choice. So my choice makes it a lot easier to not think, oh, you're not allowed to do this, or you can't do this. We don't see it like that. A revert, when you become a Muslim, when you look at that, you see it as, I wanted to become a Muslim. It was my choice. And those things belong with Islam. So you just do it. So it's different for someone who was just like, okay, no, you can't do this because this is how we are. It's different for them. And sometimes I think maybe even harder sometimes.
MashaAllah, that's so true. So speaking of that, if any listeners are currently thinking, oh, you know what, that really resonated with me, then please do get in touch. So remember, our WhatsApp number is 07591 970 241, and you can message us or call us as well. You can also comment on the Facebook Live and YouTube stream. And again, we'd love to hear from you. Do you think does it resonate with you? Do you feel the same way? Or perhaps you have some other challenges or special things about Ramadan that are unique to you? So we'd love to hear that, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, this is really fantastic discussions. We are slowly, very, very slowly coming to an end of the show. Inshallah, we have around 10 more minutes. And with kind of that, that thought in mind, we've discussed so many important and interesting things. And we talked about a lot of, our experiences, but also our, reflections on these experiences. So one thing I was wondering, since again, and it's not that the number of years define you. You may have been a Muslim for 7 years. Someone may have been a Muslim for 7 days, and we may have very similar struggles and experiences and reflections. But given that you have been a Muslim for a while now, I was wondering, do you have any advice, any piece of advice that you would like to give to new Muslims for whom perhaps this is the first Ramadan ever, in terms of fasting and experiencing Ramadan?
Yes, I do, actually. There are lots I could give, but I think the most...
Go ahead.
I'll start with the most important ones, I guess. So basically, it was something I was listening to a lecture the other day, and the person said something that really stayed with me. He mentioned that he told his wife, anything during Ramadan, anything that takes longer than 30 minutes to cook, I don't want to eat. And it stuck with me because, as I said in the beginning, sometimes we're so busy about the food and it's not all about the food. So that's something I'm doing actually now. So try eating meals that take no more than 30 minutes to cook. Ramadan is not about the food, but growing in your taqwa and your deen. So spend less time in the kitchen and more time worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or trying to, do things to grow. So reading the Quran, how you can, of course, but also being yourself and not stressing about what the other person has done and you have not. Whereas for one person, Ramadan is about completing your fast without breaking it. And for other person, it would be like they would have to read more Quran. So everyone has to grow in their favorite thing, have their own journey, I should say. My favorite thing to do is actually during Ramadan is to stay away from social media. I know this is a very hard thing for lots of people, but when you go on YouTube, when you go on Facebook, even though sometimes we say we're following Islamic things, there are always pop-ups or you see a different story, and it can take you out of the space that you're in, the memento at that time, whilst you're supposed to be trying to grow in Islam. So my advice would be like less social media. So tune out from all and tune in with Allah, I say. That's like a motto I'm thinking of using. And other than that, it's just be conscious of what you're eating and trying to eat as light foods as possible. That really helps, eating light foods and nothing heavy, because it takes a long time to digest after fasting for such a long time. Also, in the morning time when it's suhoor, try drinking lots of fluids, like or smoothies, water, not eating heavy things, because the heavier you eat, the more likely it is for you to be hungry during the day, and sometimes you're having stomach ache. And of course the fluids are to help you with the headaches, or not to get like a bladder infection, because you hear that so often, that sisters have headaches halfway through, or brothers as well. So it's just not me, let me not generalize, but headaches and all those things from not drinking enough fluids. So try and stay hydrated is important. I said it was a lot.
But it's also interesting, and it's so true. And I was thinking about what you said at the beginning the other day about food, because on the one hand, of course, and this is another thing we could talk about. Probably, as reverts, we don't have that kind of Ramadan food traditions. It's not like we have our, biryani or, curry, spring rolls, samosas. So we kind of make up our own little traditions. So I was thinking, I want to make something special for Ramadan, to have for iftar, because I want to mark it as a special day. But of course, a special meal, and this is what you just inspired me to think, it doesn't mean that it's super fancy and laborious and complex. It means that it's with that intention of connecting with Allah and nourishing your body after a whole day of fasting, in order to gain that strength to worship Allah at night and the next day. So it's like a change of perspective, that it's sometimes all that's needed. Doesn't have to be 3 hours in the kitchen before iftar. It can be something much simpler, but have the same benefit and impact. MashaAllah.
Absolutely. And I think another thing is also not sleeping the whole day. I tend to hear people say it goes a lot quicker, and I judge no one. Absolutely not. That's nothing that I would do. But just basically, it helps to try reading books or try books that you can learn more about Islam, or podcast, because then you don't have so many pop-ups and different things to distract you. So like download them beforehand and just try and do your best and try and be you. Don't try and follow someone else, because when you try and follow someone else, you only make it more harder on yourself, actually.
That's so true, mashallah. And I just wanted to bring another message that we got from WhatsApp, mashallah. So we have a message from Brother Faisal. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Faisal is saying, I look forward to the community spirit, although it's not the same during lockdown. I don't look forward to day one. It's always the most difficult. I absolutely agree. And, something that I try to do every year, I don't know about you, is, I say to myself, I'm going to try to fast before Ramadan. And, it's not as easy as it is to do during Ramadan, but sometimes when I was able to do it, I did find it was, a bit easier, because once Ramadan starts, you already have gone through that, withdrawal headaches from your coffees and teas in the morning and so on. But of course, not everyone is able to do it. And in that case, day one, it's very special, but it is also very difficult.
It is a bit, actually, I can imagine it's a bit difficult. I started in January, actually, doing every Mondays and Thursdays.
Mashallah.
Yeah,
Mashallah.
and
This is
I
incredible.
it helps. It really does help. And the time is shorter. It gets darker faster. So you're building it up, actually. So it helps. A tip for next year.
Definitely. So last question I'd like to ask you. We've talked about advice for new Muslims, and we actually already talked about it at the beginning, but I just want to kind of wrap it up, summarize it all together. So what advice, Thuraya, would you give to born Muslims in terms of supporting reverts during their fasting in Ramadan?
Actually, invite them to iftar, make them feel welcome and not alone. And, I remembered I fasted for years. And as I said, like, no one invited you. And you always got the feeling like maybe I'm doing something wrong, or, and it was a lonely feeling. So try to be welcoming to them. And even though sometimes you have a reason why you would not be able to invite them at home, try and make them feel welcome and not alone. That's my best advice to give that I would tell to a born Muslim, actually.
MashaAllah, that's so true. And of course, as we said at the beginning, right now, it's not as easy, we can't invite each other to our homes just yet. But, even reaching out on WhatsApp or by text or phone call, buddying up with someone just to check in on them every once in a while. If you are close enough, of course, with any revert, for sure it's very valuable.
Sorry about that. It doesn't really have to be a revert, because I tend to have I only hang around, have friends that are Muslims, but I do have one or two that are very caring people, and their behavior is, mashallah, so amazing. And my friend, the night before Ramadan, she's not a religious person at all, but she thought of me, and she heard Ramadan, and she sent me, good luck with the starting of your fast for Ramadan. And even my mom and my sister, they all sent me like a happy Ramadan. May your days be easy and may Allah help you, So sometimes it's just the thought and just being considerate and, be aware of what you show others about our amazing deen, because our deen is so amazing. And I think that's something that should be out there, and our behavior says it all.
MashaAllah, it's so true. And now that you said that, I think that I definitely can think, of a couple or a few born Muslim friends that are alone this Ramadan, and may have been alone the previous Ramadans because either they work away from their family, or they study in the university, and their family is back home. So you actually never know. Like, you can't really assume that, oh, this person, mashallah, is wearing hijab, even has maybe kids around, and that means that the person is full of family that's there to take care of them and support them. Really can't assume that. We should treat each other, inshallah, with kindness and love and respect. Absolutely, I definitely agree. So, mashallah, we are slowly getting to the end of the show. And first of all, before we wrap up, I'd just like to thank you, Thuraya, so much. Jazakallah khair for sharing, your time with us, for sharing your amazing stories that I'm sure has been inspiring to not just myself, but all the listeners who listen live or later through the stream. So, Jazakallah khair for joining. I just actually wanted to ask you, just to finish up, do you have any kind of final thoughts, final words you'd like to say to our listeners?
What I would like to say is that, just something that I just heard a couple of days ago. Ramadan is about, your deen, as I said, and this is the month to be from zero to a hero in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So just make the best of it, what you can be and how you can do it. That would be my final thing about Ramadan, actually.
MashaAllah. Can you just remind me, what was the little mantra slogan you said in the meantime?
So I had two, but the last one I said, from zero to hero in the month of Ramadan.
MashaAllah.
That was one. And the other one was, so tune out.
Yes.
What was it? Yes,
it was this
you
one.
meant that one? Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
tune out with all and tune in with Allah.
MashaAllah. So once again, from zero to hero in the month of Ramadan, and then tune out from
all and tune in with Allah.
MashaAllah. This is so beautiful. Jazakallah khair, Thuraya, for joining. And thank you so much, all the listeners, for being here with us. Please join us next week, inshallah. We're going to be back at 1:15 p.m. here on Ramadan FM, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. And we're going to be talking about charity from the Reverts perspective. So we really look forward to having you there, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
But it prays to Allah, it prays. Got to thank Allah before our chances go.
Helping you fast through the holy